Good early afternoon. We are live here in Orange Beach, Alabama. I'm Andy Andrews. You've joined us on the Blue Plate Special here at the Wharf. We're in Orange Beach's largest shopping extravaganza center, the Wharf. This is home of the famous escalator statues. If you visit us here, you definitely want to have your picture taken on the escalator statues. The only ones in the world that we know of. There are 4 of them, and they look real. They are life-sized, and they are incredible. Deanna Patrick, good afternoon. Ron Hackney Robertson, Patricia Clapp from North Carolina, you shared. Good. Thank you so much. Mary Barber, hi, how are you? We got a good show planned for you today. We got a packed studio audience. We got standing room only, unless people just immediately sit down, and then I guess we'd still have a standing room only. Hello from sunny Searcy, Arkansas. Searcy, Arkansas, yes, home of Harding University, where they ate their mascot. I don't know if you know that story, but Harding University, I used to work as a comedian, and I was at Harding University one time, and I was doing a thing in their big student deal, and the stage was set up, and there was this bison head behind me, this big buffalo, and it was just like right there. And so I said something about it, and some kid in the audience said, "It's our mascot." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great. Okay, so you're the Harding University bison or buffaloes or whatever." And somebody said, "No, that really was our mascot." And I'm like, "What?" And they said some wealthy alumni gave them the baby buffalo, and they raised it and had a barbecue. So it's the only college I've ever heard of that actually ate their mascot. Jeff Herring, hey, so did you enjoy the interview this morning that came out with Ted Nugent? Whew, I'm telling you, Ted is a wild man. And that's this week on The Professional Noticer. That's the podcast this week. A conversation with Ted Nugent. So if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. Buckle your seatbelts before you watch it. I mean, I just laughed out loud, just gasped out loud sometimes. But Ted Nugent, the Motor City Madman, he gets his name very honestly. Bonnie Cates Nix from Kentucky. The old man's here. Kevin Perkins. Hey. Chris Comer from Arkansas. You dressed up today, Chris? Why did you dress up? Oh, no, you're saying I dressed up. Yeah, I was just running. And because I usually have on a T-shirt from Sand Dollar Lifestyles. But we had done another video earlier, and so I was just running, so just... Heather Olson from Utah. Rachel, how are you doing? Patricia Thompson. Hi from Prattville. There's somebody from China. You're not watching the Olympics? What time was it in China? Jay Homewood from Atlanta. John Becky Weir. Hi. Hey, John. Hey, Becky. Barbara Benjamin. Yep, finally get to watch you live. Yep. And hey, that these Blue Plate specials are going to be exclusively on wisdomharbor.com coming up shortly. That's wisdom, HARBOUR.com. And it's cheap, and Wisdom Harbor is unbelievable. I mean, you can take guitar lessons on Wisdom Harbor from a award-winning songwriter. You can see content delivered by Grammy winners, master chefs, coaches, best-selling authors, Hall of Fame speakers, and CEOs. It's unbelievable. That's wisdomharbor.com. So, in studio, where's Jan and Cher from Minnesota? Man, I can't believe we have this. We didn't think to move that. Is that better? I mean, I don't know. We had that. Who were we interviewing? Who did we have in there?
We had Mark and Dr. Mark and Emily were doing some.
That's right. Yesterday we were recording stuff for wisdomharbor.com, and we just didn't push the chair out of the way. So Now we can put it back in there if you. Janice Share from Minnesota. Okay, good to see you guys. Are you thawed out a little bit? Being down here? Okay, all right, good. And Chaz and Ruth Ann from Michigan. Where Michigan? What part? Right there? The young people, do you know why they do that? Because if you look on a map, Michigan is shaped like a hand. And so all people from Michigan, if you say, well, where, if they say the name of their town, you say, where's that? They go, well, it's like right here. Which makes me wonder if other places do that. I mean, in California, do they say, I'm from Sacramento, right here? Or in Italy, I'm from Rome. Ruth Ann from Michigan, Traverse City. Yeah, we went through Traverse City one time going to Mackinac. Yeah, and I think Mackinac just got an award for having the 10,000th fudge factory place. I've never seen a place with that many fudge shops. But Living Science Academy, 37 students from Woodstock, Georgia are here. Wow, we're so glad you guys are here. And you guys have been here before. You guys are gluttons for punishment. You didn't just like wander in and just like, wow, that was really ridiculous. I mean, you knew it was ridiculous and you came back. So, wow, we're glad to have you. Debbie and Donna from Louisiana. Where's Debbie and Donna? Let's see. Hey, okay, you were the back of the chair people, yeah. And Bob from Iowa, John and Jane from Indiana. We got a lot of states here. Christy from Iowa. We're glad to have you guys. We've got a very unusual show here, as I guess you would expect. Lauren, Pat, and Tina are our local. They're holding down the fort. Yeah, okay, good. We've got a dual thing. We're going to do a recording for Wisdom Harbor while we're on the air. That's for the Just for Fun doc. And we're also going to talk about some unusual Civil War facts that, we're always researching for wisdomharbor.com. And, all harbors have docs. And so wisdomharbor.com has docs too. They have audiobook docs. We have Bet You Didn't Know docs, which are 6 and 7 minute videos that are geared more towards science and history and biology, and they're very odd things. And then there's there's Salty Mug docs. There's a writer's doc, a musician's doc. On the musician's doc, Jimmy Urey, the guy who wrote "I Drive Your Truck," and he wrote "I Called Mama" for Tim McGraw. He wrote Kenny Chesney's last 3 number ones. He was Songwriter of the Year for CMA and ACM. He's actually giving guitar lessons on wisdomharbor.com. So this is like less than $3 a month, and it's even less than that if you get the year subscription, and even less than that if your whole family joins. But you definitely want to join this. This is something definitely to get a hold of. I saw Savannah is on. Savannah is, when you heard the music a few minutes ago, that was Sugarcane Jane. They're also captains on Wisdom Harbor, but that was Sugarcane Jane, and Savannah, you're the sugar part, I think, of Cane Jane. We'll give Anthony the cane. We'll give him the cane. You're the sugar and the Jane. So, but they are unbelievable artists. So, are you guys ready to get right into this? We got three Civil War facts, unusual facts, and then we have, when we do the professional noticer, podcast, we always end those with a fake commercial, and so we laugh here in the studios at the emails we get sometimes at people trying to hit on those websites, or trying to, hey, I can't get on flatbedsalads.com, or and we laugh because we think they're fake enough. You know, we think they're silly enough, but some people are taking them seriously. But there is a Just for Fun doc on wisdomharbor.com, and you have comedians concerts on there, and some funny videos. And so we're actually going to take just 5, just the commercials at the end, and record them here with you today, and that will be placed. Those 5 will be placed on the wisdomharbor.com site. But first of all, and we're doing Civil War for the students, you know, because that way you can claim that it was of some value, you know, just like you learned something. So even though it was up to me, we'd all just go to the beach, you know. So, all right. Oh, and Barbara Benjamin says, what kind of fish is on the wall by my right side? My right side? This? That is a bluegill, a brim. That is the skin, an up close picture that I took of a cigar minnow. That is the skin, I don't know if you can see that. I'll take it in and show you. That's the skin of a triggerfish up close. And I think that's all the... But that is a bluegill. And if you ever hear an audiobook and somebody is pronouncing it bream, it's spelled B-R-E-A-M, but it is not pronounced bream. Only a non-fisherman would say bream. It's brim. They're brim. Bass and brim. It drives me nuts to listen to audiobooks and the bass and bream were hidden in the lily pads. But they're recording these things in New York, and they don't have any southern people to tell them how to pronounce things. I was laughing. I was listening to an audiobook the other day, and there's an island off Mobile. The island is locally, it's called Petty Boy, but the person reading the book pronounced it Petit Bois. And they passed the island of Petit Bois. Okay. All right, here we go. Civil War facts. Odd facts known by few. Remember Sherman burned Atlanta? Okay. Now, I have a theory about some of these generals that I've had for a long time, like Patton and Custer and some of these guys that you read about. And my theory is there is a really fine edge between some of these guys and insanity. I mean, Custer, you know, he was a cavalry leader, and his commander actually said about Custer that Custer was the only cavalry leader that was just as effective after he got married as he was before he got married. Now, what that means is, you know, a cavalry, nobody expects the cavalry to win the fight. Cavalry are shock troops. They're, you know, you're talking about 500 people on horses with swords, and they're just heading straight for the front lines, and they're there to scare them to death, to make them turn, you know, and so, because 500 people bearing down on you, horses galloping, their swords drawn, pointed at you, it looks like 50,000. And so, you know, the history is littered with stories of 500 cavalrymen making 2,000 or 3,000 people run. And so, but obviously, a cavalry, they're charging right into the teeth of it. And so, what that commander meant about Custer was that, you know, unmarried guys are a lot more risky with their lives, and But then once they get married and have kids, they're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to really do this, you know. But he said Custer was the only one. And if you read a biography of Custer, you can see, yeah, he was crazy. But before Sherman, and talking about Sherman in the Civil War, before Sherman, his full name was William Tecumseh Sherman. Before he became this great Union general that everybody knew, he was actually demoted for apparent insanity. At the first of the war in October 1861, Sherman was the commander of the Union forces in Kentucky. And so he told the Secretary of War, Simon Cameron, that he needed 60,000 men to defend his territory and 200,000 to go on the offensive. And that was so outlandish a number that Cameron called Sherman's request insane and actually removed him from command. But, and then he didn't really respond to that well. But because in a letter to his brother, Sherman, it's recorded, Sherman wrote, I do think I should have committed suicide. And if it were not for my children, I probably would have, and I don't think that I can be trusted again with command. But a year later, in February 1862, Sherman was reassigned to that, Kentucky group. And this time they were under Ulysses S. Grant, who was the 9th guy in line that Lincoln had fighting, right? The 9th guy in line. I mean, he had McClellan, McClernand, all these guys that, and Lincoln said, in Grant, I got somebody who will actually fight. And somebody said to Lincoln, they complained about Grant's drinking. They said that he drinks too much. And Lincoln said, yeah, we'll find out what kind of whiskey he drinks, and I'll send a case to my other generals. But Grant saw competence in Sherman, who had been disgraced, and reassigned him. And so then later, but this is the great story, later in the war, when a civilian kind of badmouthed Grant, Sherman defended his friend, and this is what he said. He said, General Grant is a great general. He stood by me when I was crazy, and I stood by him when he was drunk. And now we stand by each other. So that's a great quote from Sherman. Okay, now, a second odd fact known by few, and this was the source of many, many ghost stories around Shiloh battlefield. Because in the Battle of Shiloh, this was in 1862, soldiers reported this peculiar phenomenon a couple of days after the battle. More than 16,000 soldiers from both armies were wounded or killed during the battle, and neither the Union or Confederate medical personnel were ready for that kind of carnage. 16,000. I mean, soldiers were laying in the mud, wounded, dead for 2 days, and many of them noticed that their wounds were starting to glow in the dark. And so on the Shiloh battlefield, after 2 days, there were a lot of glowing wounds out in the dark. Can you imagine how eerie that looked? 16,000 people out there wounded and dead, and the wounds started glowing. But one of the things that they noticed is that the injured people whose wounds glowed seemed to heal better than the ones whose wounds did not glow. And that was the source of many ghost stories for a long time until in 2001. Can you imagine it took this long? In 2001, 2 Maryland teenagers solved the mystery, and they won a top prize at a science fair. The wounded became hypothermic, and their lower body temperatures made an ideal condition for bioluminescent bacteria that is called Photohabdus luminescens, which inhibits pathogens and promotes healing, but it glows. But isn't that amazing that I mean, I guess there was probably a time that people said, well, that's not real. You know, those guys are seeing things. Nobody glowed on the battlefield. And it's odd to me that that would be the only time with all the wars that the world has seen, that would be the only time that somebody has seen that the conditions were right for that. But, okay, here's the third, and this is the weirdest and creepiest of the three for sure, and maybe one of the weirdest and creepiest Civil War things that I have ever found. All right. Matt, show them a picture of Chang and Ing. That is Chang and Ing Bunker. Okay? They are best known as the original Siamese twins. They were natives of Siam, which is modern Thailand, and they were joined at the sternum, and they share a liver. And they became a very popular sideshow act. P.T. Barnum put them on display, and they traveled with these expeditions and became, I mean, they were brought when they were 8 years old from modern-day Thailand over to America, and then they were put on display. And they made a lot of money. They made a lot of money and they would do handstands, and they would talk to people and have conversations. Well, in 1839, they had enough money, and so they quit. Other people run away to the circus. They ran away from the circus, okay? And so they quit the circus, and they bought 110 acres in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. And they got married to separate women who were separated. I mean, okay? And they had like 11 kids. Just let your imagination deal with that one. But they also bought slaves, and they bought a plantation, and they were very into the Confederate thing. They became naturalized citizens, and they were devoted Confederates. And I mean, they owned slaves. And then in 1865, Union General George Stoneman raided North Carolina and captured that area. And he decided he was going to draft some local people to, you know, travel with his army and serve his army and do some of the hard work and stuff. And so he didn't care which side they were pulling for. He was just going to basically make slaves out of them and put them to work. And so the names of all the men from the town over 18 were put into the lottery wheel. And Ing's name was drawn, but Chang's name was not drawn. So what do you do there? I mean, actually, there was not much that the general could do. So neither one of them served in the war. But both of their oldest sons enlisted and fought for the Confederacy. Both of their oldest sons. And so they lived, and well after the war, they one of them died, and then hours later, the other one began to die and died within 24 hours. But they were buried in North Carolina, and this is the weird part. Guess where they lived and where they were buried? They lived in Mount Airy, North Carolina, and they're still buried in the Mount Airy, North Carolina cemetery. Now, if you've followed the Andy Griffith Show at all, you know that Mount Airy is where Andy Griffith was from. And Mount Airy is the real Mayberry. And I have a bunch of memorabilia from the show over in those cabinets over there. I'm a big Andy Griffith fan, but I didn't know that Chang and Ing were buried in Mayberry. Just seems very weird to me. That's the oddest thing. Okay, all right. So there's the Civil War lesson. Now we're gonna do 5 of these fake commercials. Okay, and so we always end the show the same way. We end it with who the producer was, and we added this little part. I don't know. Many of you are too young to remember Let's Make a Deal. But I always remember when I was a kid, I'd watch Let's Make a Deal, and at the end of the show, they would say, Monty Hall's wardrobe supplied by Botany 500. And they would always have these things, so-and-so and so-and-so, supplied by. And so we decided we wanted one of those too. And so we got Twinkle and Smoke, who are my family's outdoor cats, to provide the cast and crew something every time. And so that's fake too. But here we go. And we'll do these one after the other. And y'all ready? Everybody ready? All right, here we go. You ready, Matt?
I'm ready.
This episode of The Professional was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Rotisserie chicken provided by the cast and crew for... Oh, wait. I blew that. Okay, we got to start over. All right. Okay, I blew it. So now you're seeing... I mean, it's funny to me that sometimes people will listen to my audiobooks and they'll say, well, you do a real good job with that. And I'll go, well, thank you. And they'll say, I was just amazed that you can get through the whole book without making a mistake. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. You've never heard of editing. Okay, here we go. And see, I actually, you know, that, what just happened right there? That, you know, that thing, that mistake, I didn't actually make that mistake. That did not happen. And I can prove it, because when you watch it on Wisdom Harbor, it won't be there. All right. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Rotisserie chicken provided for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by PoodleLures.com. So, you call yourself a fisherman, huh? Yet you spend hours helplessly failing the water with plastic purple worms, spinnerbaits, and topwater jitterbugs. While these old standbys do catch fish, they do so only occasionally, and when fishermen come back empty-handed, the scapegoats are endless. The wind direction was wrong. There's been too much rain. There's been too little rain. The water is muddy. The moon phase is wrong. Sadly, the truth never occurs to most anglers. The reality is the fish just weren't hungry. Think about it. Would you eat a plastic worm if you weren't starving? Yeah, neither do bass. That's why PoodleLures.com is the perfect offering to tie onto the end of your line. Several designs are available, but they all have one thing in common. Each is made from 100% natural poodle fur. What's the big deal, you ask? Fish aggressively attack poodle lures even when they aren't hungry. For thousands of years, the best fishermen have carefully kept a secret we will now reveal. While it is common knowledge that they dislike dogs, fish absolutely hate poodles. And that is why bass tournament champions the world over fish with nothing but poodle lure spinnerbaits, poodle lure jigs, and poodle lure topwater taunters. Do you want a stringer of fish every time? Well, if they're not hungry, just piss them off. That's PoodleLure.com. All right. Okay, ready? Here we go. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Generators provided for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the National Alliance for the Preservation of Guilt. Have you called your mother lately? Why don't you call more often? After all she's done for you, Cooking, cleaning, working her fingers to the bone. This is how you treat her? In truth, your mother may have passed away years ago, but our talented operators here at the National Alliance for the Preservation of Guilt can keep that feeling of regret alive forever. Sign up online at IDidItAllForYou.com and choose from a menu of options. You'll receive 2 calls every week, one in the middle of the night, the other early in the morning, with themes like, "You never treated your father like this," "Do you have to live so far away?" "I didn't raise you to dress like that," "Look at your sister, she's a doctor," and the ever-popular, "I'll just sit here in the dark by myself." All this to say, friend, if life is a breeze, if you're feeling good about yourself, it's time to shake things up. Do you really miss your mother as much as you say? Even from heaven, she's watching you now. Isn't it time you finally did something for her? So come on, turn back the clock and relive a bit of that old self-condemnation, blame, and remorse. Here to help you do it, we are the National Alliance for the Preservation of Guilt. We have a good time writing these things. Actually, we write them and then go read them to each other, and we all laugh, and we just can't wait. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much a silly bunch. I think we are. Here we go, number 3. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Ollie Sutherland's prank packs provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by oldfashionedlighterfluid.com. Do you have problems with your charcoal grill? Can't get those briquettes to catch fire? That's because you're using lighter fluid that's been diluted so greatly you could use it to put out a fire. Here at oldfashionedlighterfluid.com, we provide the stuff your daddy used back in the 1970s. Remember Dad dousing that little stack of black biscuit-shaped briquettes and saying, "Stand back, everyone." And by golly, you did stand back, cause when Daddy flipped a match into that rusty old Weber, the mushroom cloud could be seen all over town. And in no time at all, that fire was ready to cook. So turn back on the old newfangled, watered-down imitation. Go online and order a gallon or 2 of the original stuff from us, oldfashionedlighterfluid.com, and enjoy your barbecue like your parents did, with black crust and the fine taste of petrochemicals. Okay, 2 more to go. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Mule sauce provided for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by futurephone.edu. Did you love the Jetsons as a kid? Do you like books about time travel? Futurephone.edu is right up your alley, a coordinated research organization funded by the world's greatest colleges and universities. Futurephone.edu has taken telephone design light years past the competition. While other devices are deemed smart by their manufacturers, the communication units now being produced in the secret laboratories of Futurephone.edu are well beyond smart. They are brilliant. So forget whatever number phone you have. Forget standing in line 20 years from now for an iPhone 42. Get the phone of tomorrow today. Check out these tantalizing features. FuturePhone will never confuse you by storing tens of thousands of photos because it doesn't have a camera. Don't worry about dropping this tiny, fragile piece of technology. It's not tiny or fragile. Futurephone.edu predicts an extra-large future. Therefore, their phones are substantial. It's like holding a brick, but with a single dial. Nothing to turn on or off and nothing to update. Our no earpiece connection with no speakerphone allows you to easily follow our nation's hand-free laws and actually drive somewhere without making or taking a call. In fact, you'll never take it out of your house, for the fashionable phone does not detach from the wall. Best of all, there's nothing to learn. But if you still can't figure it out, simply dial 0, and a person Future phone calls an operator will immediately answer to help. That's futurephone.edu, available only in avocado green with a single ringtone. That's a Back to the Future. Okay, here we go. Last one. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Miniature pencils with giant erasers provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the new pharmaceutical breakthrough, Damitol. Do you wake up in the morning and find yourself frustrated because you accidentally watched the news? A single tablet will reset your day. Did a jerk cut you off driving to work? Is the soy iced mocha latte all over your suit? You might need 3 tablets to set things right. After hours of phone calls, reams of paperwork, and being told that management would not be giving out cost of living raises this year, don't go outside and shout at the sky. Just go to your local pharmacy and say, "I'd like a large bottle of Damitol, please." Damitol comes in tablet, capsule, and the new licorice-flavored liquid. So don't let life get you down. Use the product you can ask for angrily. Available anywhere pharmaceuticals are sold. Ask for it by name. Damitol. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you to the studio audience for being here and being such good sports. And I just, I love it when you guys are here. This is great. We will be back Thursday. And Thursday we will be only airing on wisdomharbor.com. It's wisdom, HARBOUR.com. And so if you haven't signed up, please go now and sign up. We also have the little app on the phone. Put it on the first page of your phone, and you can watch everything from your phone. You can join us when we go live for the events we go live on, and we will have a great time together forever. We also have an educational doc on wisdomharbor.com, which has curriculums and all kinds of stuff, and it all comes with the membership. So join us. We can't wait to see you again. See you Thursday.